Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo, yo. What's up? What the F is up? In the place to be. Coming on the mic is Johnny Mother Effin' Fee. JFN in the house. Logo on the screen. Computer can't keep up because it's choppy in between. Institute for Justice. They're the best amongst us. Even the hunkiest hunky hunkstest of us. So, listen to them explain it to you. Hula hala hey me, you know you wanna lay me, past the poi mohama. Please put in the comments what movie that's from. If you think you slick, get more of my forehead. There we go. Perfect. All right, let me take all those tickers and stuff off of here because it doesn't run so smooth. I just wanted to play with my little thingy there. That sounded awesome. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to John Felix News, so to speak. Get centered there. Is this why there's so many people on a film crew? All right, let's get this stuff out of here. What do we got here? Let's get rid of that. All right. All right. What else do we want to get rid of? Get rid of, I want to get rid of this. There we go. All right. Getting smoother already. What else? Do we have anything else on there? Needs to go bye-byes? All right. Where were we? So, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Institute for Justice. No, I don't want to be big head. I want to be little head. Little head. John gave me a little head. Anyway, Institute for Justice. If you're going to give money to anyone, and I mean anyone, these are the people to donate money to. $5 a month, whatever it is. I don't think I've ever said give $5 a month to anybody, but if you can spare $5 a month, these guys are fantastic, and they should have, like they say in this video, 250 million subscribers. Listen to them explain the system to you and how it works and how it's used against you. And by the way, JC Playford live noon tomorrow, right here. All three platforms: John Felix News, Facebook, Rumble, here, YouTube. All right. So I'm gonna put it at 1.5 speed. You'll get used to it because it's a long video. Everything sound good? Give me a 6x7. I can't even see the chat. Oh, maybe because I don't have it clicked on there. All right, Buzz, what's up? Charles Walter, Brandon, what's up? What's up? Big Daddy News WY, what's up? Peter Kaufman, Frank Pants, what's up, bro? I don't want to hear about genitalia today, all right? Calm it down with that stuff. Respect from Canada. Parasites, parasites, never really help nobody. Taxing everything in sight. Parasites, California, what's normal? I don't know, you tell me. Morton, Oogle. Frank Pants, let's see, suffer from Lakanuki. All right, dude. I'm not entertaining that. Ying Yang News Now, what's up? Jerry Singleton, how are you? Joko, KS, Morton. I already said you, man. 6x7s, 50x50, yes. Wrench, 5x9, yes. 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5. What is up, Mr. Fort Silver? Metatron Matrix. Now that is a username. Nunya Business. Great username. Government is slavery. Another great username. Underscores can be iffy, though, you know. Underscore's a little pitchy, dog. You little pitchy. Mr. Denicola, Mr. John Denicola. Perfect sense. All right, I miss anyone? Apocalypse Promotions, what's up? All right, let's listen to these lawyers, man.
What can Americans do if the government
Honestly, if this sounds good, tell me.
retaliates against them for speaking out? I'm Kim Norberg of the nonprofit civil liberties law firm, the Institute for Justice, joined by co-host Keith Neely. And today we're going to discuss real-world examples of government retaliating against citizens for speech it doesn't approve of. We're joined by IJ attorneys Kirby Thomas West and Ben Fields. This is Beyond the Brief. And the first case that I want to talk with you guys about today is Waylon Bailey. Can you kind of explain what's going on with Waylon?
Sure. So Waylon Bailey is a boxer who lives in central Louisiana in Rapides Parish. And at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020, he, like most people, was at home. He's actually setting up a home gym in his garage. And he made a joke on Facebook. Like many other people, he was comparing it to a zombie apocalypse. And he made this joke saying, like, painting a picture of, like, the local sheriff's office treating it like a zombie apocalypse and hunting the infected. But it was over the top. It ended with a hashtag, "We need you, Brad."
Rapids Parish Sheriff Office have issued the order if deputies come into contact with the infected, shoot on sight. Lord have mercy on us all. COVID 9 hashtag we need you, Brad Pitt. All right. So that's what he said on Facebook.
Brad Pitt in reference to Brad Pitt's zombie movie World War Z, had all sorts of emojis. It was just shared among friends. And for the first few hours, it was just what it was supposed to be. Friends were bantering about it in the comments. But it turns out that the Rapides Parish
Oh, I didn't realize he only shared it to his friends.
Sheriff's Office had seen it and didn't like being the butt of a joke. And so, without any sort of investigation or anything, they pulled together a SWAT team, rushed to Waylon's house, and with guns drawn, multiple officers in tactical gear arrested him and said that the post was terrorism and charged him under a terrorizing statute. He had to spend several hours in jail until his wife could bail him out, and then his face was just plastered all over local news, accusing him of being a terrorist. And so, as you can imagine, this was ridiculous. The district attorney refused to prosecute the charges, and so Waylon then sued the sheriff's office officials who had targeted him for this joke on Facebook. And unfortunately for him, he ran into the Buzzsaw qualified immunity in the district court. And what the court held was by applying
Terrorism charges for that post he put on Facebook. Terrorism charges.
law from the Wilson administration in World War I, when the government was rounding up people who criticized the government's war policies and throwing people in jail for distributing pamphlets, the Supreme Court had upheld those kinds of jailings, saying that it was a clear and present danger to, for instance, distribute socialist pamphlets. And that's actually where the shouting fire in a crowded theater comes from. That case had nothing to do with theaters or fires or shouting at all. It was a guy distributing pamphlets that the government didn't like, and they were allowed to throw him in jail for that. Fortunately, the Supreme Court in the decades since has said that's no longer the law. And by the 60s, it was quite clear that that category of speech incitement that falls outside the First Amendment was a much, much narrower.
So you see, that guy was arrested for pamphlets. We're being arrested for cameras. It's just an updated version of the same BS. That tells you even more that we're in the right side of history, because obviously what they did to the guy with the pamphlets is wrong, just like what they're doing to the guys with the cameras wrong. Cameras are updated version of pamphlets.
Standard. But even so, the district court said, I'm going to apply this World War I era law and throw this out of court. That's when IJ came in. We saw that this was absolutely absurd. So first of all, as you said, it was just very, very troubling that somebody could post a joke that made fun of a local government official and then end up being charged with terrorism as a result. But it was also very troubling.
War on terror in and of itself is a fraud. I hope everybody knows that.
From a First Amendment perspective, because if this World War I era case was going to be brought back, then everybody who sounds off on social media was susceptible to being thrown in jail. And so we took the case over on appeal, brought it to the Fifth Circuit, successfully argued that that was a ridiculous application of the First Amendment. The Fifth Circuit reversed in a very strong opinion, making clear that Waylon's speech was protected under the First Amendment, and that the stretching this Louisiana statute to reach that speech also violated the Fourth Amendment, because no reasonable officer could look at that joke and think, oh, this is terrorism, and therefore I have probable cause to arrest somebody. And that's exactly what retaliation is. It's when officials, they see there's actually a Soviet, the first head of what became the KGB, or Beria, what's his name? He has this famous aphorism, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. And that's sort of what retaliation is. The government sees, well, they don't like this.
Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. In other words, just point anybody out to me and I'll find a way to charge them with something. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. These are very intelligent, and to me, they look drug-free and a great representation of what an objective legal team should be doing.
this person. And then, there are always hundreds or thousands of local and state laws that you can look to figure out what it is. Here they happen to pick out a terrorism statute that obviously didn't apply, and that's how it works. Unfortunately, the Fifth Circuit said, no, we're not going to let that happen. And within 2 months of the Fifth Circuit sending the case back to the district court, Whalen got to go before a jury of his peers. They agreed this is unconstitutional, and they awarded him $205,000 in damages for the unconstitutional conduct of the sheriff's office.
So hearing that, I have a few questions off the bat. And the first is, how did the district court get this so wrong? I mean, not only did they apply World War I era precedent to this case, which, as you just described, has been overruled now for nearly 60 years, but in addition, how did they try to put his joke in the context of pamphlets that were protesting the draft? I mean, they seem like such different issues. And how did the district court?
Because they'll reach as far as they can, and their ego will not let them have any restraint on their behavior and act like objective constitutional officers and government employees. That era, if it ever even was, is long gone or has never happened to begin with.
At all bring what Whalen did into the ambit of these sorts of very particularized cases.
Yeah, so I think that this is sort of, this is how qualified immunity often works, that there wasn't really that level of analysis that you're suggesting. Instead, the vast majority of what the district court did is conduct its own research and show, March 2020 was generally a stressful time, which nobody disputes. Obviously it was, we all lived through it. And so he said, well, it was stressful, so I'm kind of going to throw up my hands and just give the officers the benefit of the doubt. No matter how absurd it is that they stretch this statute, it was generally stressful. So, they could have thought that this was some sort of speech that could be proscribed. And so I'm just going to let it go. And I think he sort of, turned to these World War I cases as a hook. But I think it was really driven by that intuition rather than being driven by the law, which unfortunately is sort of what qualified immunity often asks courts to do.
Right. Well, one of my favorite things when this case reached the Fifth Circuit,
And there it is, the gigantic hurdle of qualified immunity.
was during oral argument, when I think one of the judges on the panel asked opposing counsel, did the sheriff know who Brad Pitt was? Because as you mentioned, right, the joke very prominently says, #we need Brad Pitt. And at argument, the judge tried to ask opposing counsel about that, right?
Yeah, so one of the judges asked, to make the point that you're making, that obviously this is a joke. And our opposing counsel said, well, he's just a simple country boy. He doesn't know who Brad Pitt was. And the Judge Douglas, I think it was, she latched onto this. It's like, you're seriously telling me that your client doesn't know who Brad Pitt is? And he said, well, he doesn't know him personally. And
I've heard that song, man. It's horrible.
one of our colleagues after the argument said to me, well, I feel like, I know who he is, but I don't know him personally. That's also my relationship with Brad Pitt.
So our authorities usually
They're a little geeky, dude, but whatever. I want these guys on my team. They're bookworms. They're objective, drug-free.
this, extreme about it, right? Like this, terrorism statute, that seems completely outlandish. Like normally this kind of thing, when you think of people are, being charged with a crime for, in retaliation, it's for something like jaywalking or, whatever, some like simple, obvious law. They're not kind of making this strange leap to, you're a terrorist actually for Facebook jokes. So what does kind of the simpler version of this even look like?
I mean,
See, they're like you're a terrorist. I'd be like, they're trying to say you're a terrorist, and they're just like, they're trying to equate a Facebook post to terrorism. No, shit. See, they have control, unlike me.
I think that it runs the gamut. As we were talking about, there are just so many laws on the book. They're famously like there are books saying like everybody commits 3 felonies a day, because there's just so many things are criminalized. Statutes are written so broadly that sure, one way that you can target people who you don't like are to go after these endemic crimes like jaywalking or parking violations that people don't even know are parking violations. So that's certainly one way to do it, and we've seen cases like that. In fact, I'm currently representing somebody in a city in Ohio who was targeted for campaigning against his mayor with a parking ordinance that literally had never been enforced to anybody in remotely similar circumstances. But
that's so they use little stupid ordinances and codes to control you. And the way if we pass the code, now it's within the framework of law nonsense. It's all unconstitutional. It's all BS. And that's how they get you. That's how they control you. And they got their gunmen. And as long as nobody's willing to resist, this is what you get right here.
There's the other category where there's just laws that are written incredibly broadly. And that is sort of where the terrorism statute came in, that officers, the statute on its face is written very broadly. Courts have interpreted it much more narrowly to comport with the First Amendment, but officers will just reach for whatever is available. And often it isn't police officers who are doing this. It isn't even people who necessarily know about the law. It's often mayors or the law department or other officials who are just
It's hard to hold a candle.
leafing through whatever ordinance or statute comes to mind that they can weaponize against their opponents.
What did this case mean to Whalen? He's been fighting this now for years. He just got this phenomenal jury award in this case. Without IJ, odds are an attorney probably wouldn't, continue to litigate that case on appeal, perhaps because it would have been too costly or the contingency fee might not have been worth it. So how did Whalen react, not just to the Fifth Circuit reversal, but his subsequent victory at trial?
I mean, this was huge to him. As I said, he was tarnished in his entire community as being a terrorist. That's sort of the last that anybody heard.
Oh yeah, that's the other part. He got arrested. The narrative, he's arrested for terrorism. The news puts out this guy's arrested for terrorism. Now everyone that knows him thinks he's a terrorist. That's a system. That's a design. That's not accidental that it happens over and over again.
Heard of it. In fact, the sheriff's office went on their Facebook page to promote the story. And of course, after the fact, nobody was terribly interested in it. And local civil rights law firm filing a lawsuit doesn't generate the kind of press to vindicate someone's name. And so it's incredibly meaningful when IJ comes in. And not only, as you say, did we have the resources to take this on appeal, to write what I think our local counsel referred to as monster briefs, because we have the time to actually a good appellate brief is 50, 60 pages of dense legal research, which again, if you're on contingency.
50, 60 pages of dense legal research, an appellate brief. So, like people tell me to become a lawyer, I can't do that type of sit down for hours on end and no, a no, 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 a no. I ain't writing 50, 60 pages of anything ever. And they're doing it. Well, they're nonprofit. Bless these people, man.
And you're up in you're fighting qualified immunity, you're probably going to lose. People don't have the resources. So not only did we win it for Whalen, but we also have the resources through our communications team to put his side of the story out there. And ultimately, when that jury verdict was announced, he not only had the jury of his peers saying that he didn't do anything wrong, and in fact, the sheriff's office violated his constitutional rights, but he got media coverage both at the time we got involved, and then when the verdict came out, saying Whalen's not a terrorist. Whalen is the victim of constitutional violations. And I think that was just incredibly meaningful to him.
How has the sheriff's office reacted, right? Like this all started because they were upset about, being the butt of a joke, and now they're the butt of a, massive campaign by IJ nationwide, right? And so are they kind of remorseful now? Are they more mad? What's going on there?
So I haven't spoken with them personally, but my hope is
just
that,
like Brad Pitt.
Yes, exactly. I know of them, but I do not know them personally. But my hope is that, that they, it may be embarrassing for them, but I hope that it's channeled into something positive. And that's sort of what the point of IJ's work in the immunity space is to clear the way for meritorious lawsuits like this to succeed. And part of it is getting vindication and compensation for the victims of constitutional violations, and that's very important. But equally, if not more important, is setting up good incentives for the government. So now the sheriff's office knows, if I go out and arrest somebody for some pretextual reason that's total BS, my office might face a $205,000 verdict. And in fact, the individual officer, he's going to be indemnified by the sheriff's office, but he has a judgment against him too. And even though he won't pay it, hopefully he'll have second thoughts the next time he thinks about doing something like this. And I hope that the sheriff's office going forward will say, we're going to have trainings to make sure that their officers respect constitutional rights. And hopefully their insurer will say, we don't want to be on the hook for this and pay the legal fees of both sides of this litigation. So we're going to make sure that you behave in the future as well. I think that a system that allows people to vindicate their rights just sets up good incentives for everybody.
So you are working on a case involving code enforcement. Ben mentioned code enforcement earlier, in Wisconsin, where that's being used in a retaliatory way.
Yeah, this is kind of a good example of the more typical retaliation case that you were talking about. And as Ben was saying, there's just so many offenses on the books that
So Facebook post, charged as a terrorist, years of court and stress and anxiety, and it's always in the back of your head that one day you're going to go have to face somebody for being charged as a terrorist in your own country. Think about that. Think about that next time you're hitting them keystrokes.
if you pick somebody, you can absolutely find something that they've done to get them for. And that's exactly what happened in Wisconsin. In Eagle, Wisconsin, our clients, Erica and Zach Mallory, have a property in a rural area, and they have a farm. They grow vegetables. They have some farm animals, in addition to their full-time work as a nurse and a cybersecurity technician. And Erica in particular, but Erica and Zach both, are really involved in the town politics. So Erica would go to town board meetings, and she'd get up and say some things that were often critical of the town, like the way that they were conducting meetings and it wasn't transparent enough, or the way that the town was handling its finances. Or
oh my God, they want to know what their money is going to and how it's used. What's wrong with these people? They don't trust us. We're the kings and queens of this place.
Land use decisions, and things that impacted them as members of the community that they were really interested in. But often, they were kind of gadflies. They got up and said, "This is a problem, and I'm going to talk about it." And they also,
yes, please go to my Rumble channel. Please subscribe to my Rumble channel. Let's migrate over there. where we can say what the F we want whenever we effing want to, and whoever doesn't effing like it can S my effing D. You would have got to hear that rant unfiltered, uncensored.
So would similar to Waylon, get on social media and talk about what the town was doing in Facebook groups and say, I think we should be doing this better, or talking about particular board members and things they thought they were doing improperly. And they soon found themselves the subject of a code enforcement action. And the town went to their property and said,
Yes, same name on Rumble. Yes, thank you for asking.
okay, well, we've taken a look at, again, this very rural property where they are trying to conduct a small farm. And they said, we've noticed that you have an unpermitted flower box on your second floor of your house. We didn't get a permit to build that flower box. And
You didn't get a permit to build a flower box on your own property in the freest country in the world.
an unpermitted farm stand where they just had a tiny farm stand where there was, kind of honor system, putting vegetables, or people could, leave some money to pay for produce. And we've noticed
Who do you think you are that you're going to put a table at the end of your property and have an honor system where somebody wants an ear of corn and to throw a dollar in that little box, that little hand carved and whittled box? Who do you think you are? You're going to pay taxes on that money? First of all, where'd the corn come from? Has it been inspected by the Department of Agriculture? Then you ain't having it.
that your grass is too long and you had some construction materials out, because there's always projects on a farm. So even more so in rural areas, I feel like for code enforcement, if you go onto any property, you can find a long list of things that are technically against the code because people are working on projects all the time, or throughout different seasons, you have different things that are going on your farm. So these offenses, most of them did actually exist, right? But it was very clear that the reason that the town was going after them and threatening them with almost $20,000 in fees for the code violations was because that they had spoken out at town meetings and because they were very vocal on Facebook. And in fact, one of the town board members at the time actually in an email to Erica said, I tried to help you out, but you really ticked off the board with your comments on Facebook and at town board meetings. And so the board voted with emotion when they voted to keep the process moving forward. So it's, I think, again, it just shows how
So they're so stupid. They emailed the fact that they retaliated against her to her.
pernicious and widespread this is, where it's something that's much more mundane, just talking about town politics and things that you're upset about, things that happen in every town across the country, and then you find yourself looking at tens of thousands of dollars in fines as a result.
One of the commonalities between these two cases is that in both cases, you're dealing with kind of smaller rural communities where everyone seems to know everyone else. And I've always wondered,
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows sheriff is the law.
retaliation type cases, is that more common in smaller communities, perhaps because, local municipal governments, they know who their opponents are and they're happy to try to use the power of government to retaliate against folks? Or is it just because in those sorts of cases, retaliation is easier to prove because you have a smaller number of actors, and during discovery, you can find these sorts of emails? Although in this case, of course, they sent that email to an IJ attorney, which was not probably the smartest thing. But I'm just kind of curious, what is
They emailed these guys that they retaliated. They don't even know that what they're doing is illegal. That's the whole point.
Is there a relationship between, smaller communities, tight-knit communities, and these sorts of retaliation cases?
That's such a great question. And I don't know what the data shows, like objectively, I don't know what the evidence would show, but my intuition, just based on talking to people and IJ cases, is that it's a little bit of both. One is that when you have a small town government, I think some people might be surprised, although if you've lived in a small town, maybe not, that like those petty tyrants in small town government bodies can sometimes be the most aggressive in violating people's rights. And I think there is a lot of interpersonal dynamics. You kind of know everybody, and there can be hostilities. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's some of the latter too, right? That this retaliation is happening in bigger cities. But so and it's similar to what Ben was talking about in Erica and Zach's case, it was easy for us to show, okay, you've brought all these violations against Erica and Zach that you haven't enforced against anybody else. And it's a small town, so we could kind of look at all of their enforcement history, right? And we could say, and also the way you did it was totally different than you did in everybody else's case. The town chairman was personally involved in assessing extra violations in their violation notice, aside from what the inspectors had observed. And that was all just way out of character. But in a small town, you can look at that whole body of evidence, right, and say like, okay, well, this is the only one.
Try that in a small town.
Whereas in a bigger city, of course, you have a lot more to kind of sift through to say, okay, how out of the norm is this? How unusual is this enforcement action? And I think it would be, even in cases of genuine retaliation, it could be harder to show that this is unique, right? That this is they're really targeting this person in a way that they didn't target other people.
So it sounds like it's really helpful then that, the local government pretty much admitted, the reason why we're doing this is because we're mad at you.
It's always nice when they send an email that said, hey, we did a retaliation.
Yeah, right, exactly. Does that happen pretty often? I mean, probably not as, nakedly as it was happening in Wisconsin, but does the person who's having the enforcement, do they get some sort of communication from the city that says, this is because of X, or are they just kind of guessing that that's the reason?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that often, towns aren't saying this. So I think it can be really hard to show, even if you could kind of guess just based on the timeline of how things unfold. That like this seems pretty clearly targeted at me. And one of the problems is it can be hard to get to the stage of litigation to discovery where you might get to see some of that communication between the officials who are acting and doing an enforcement. Um, and that's where you would actually find that evidence typically, right? Typically, they're not telling somebody this is because of your speech, except in a situation like Ben's case where, the terrorism charge was because of the speech. But in these cases where they're enforcing other things that are unrelated to the speech because of the speech, I think typically it's harder to find that kind of direct evidence.
So where's the case now? What's going on now?
So in Eagle, the town board now is totally different than the town board at the time of the enforcement action. And we were actually able to work with the town board, the new town board, and they indicated to us that they wanted to reform their policies to make sure that things like this don't happen in the future and that the town is respectful of people's constitutional rights. And so we worked with them to totally rewrite their code enforcement policies to ensure that there's more protections and more transparency. And the way that we did that was kind of standardizing the process and saying, as I said, in Erica and Zach's case, there were a number of things that were different than how they typically enforce it. So making sure that the town is following the same procedure in every single case, and then also baking in some more protections for property owners that they have.
I'll debate your mom in a friendly way. I actually do debate a guy who uses the Bible. Once somebody goes to the Bible for debating, you have to agree to disagree because then I have to start questioning specifically what from that time period where that book was written. You get lost in the weeds, but I have a conversation with her. I usually corner them with the what's right from wrong and how it contradicts what they're saying, and then they get upset.
Have ample opportunity to remedy any violations on their property once they've been pointed out to them before any fees even come into the picture. And that way, even if somehow they were able to institute an enforcement action that was retaliatory, nobody would face any fines unless they've been given a full opportunity to actually just remedy the property violation. And so there were a number of
I've always wanted to do a fallen citizen memorial. That would be wonderful if we could organize a fallen citizen memorial, a big monument with the people who. Now, we're not talking about justified ones, we're talking about unjustified ones. And there's still going to be a big monument.
reforms that the town board enacted as a part of a settlement with Erica and Zach, and they also, promised not to go forward with any civil enforcement action against them for the alleged code violation. So that case has now settled, and I think I'm very optimistic about Eagle going forward that they've now enacted these reforms to ensure that doesn't happen to other people.
Oh boy, Romans 13. Romans 13 says you should obey your authority figures, but the part they leave out about Romans 13 is that's if your authority figures are acting within the scope of the Bible itself. It's not them. If you're going by the word is they have to be righteous, so you have to follow them because they're righteous. So if they stop being righteous, they've breached Romans 13, so to speak. I'm catching some Bobbit vibes.
That's definitely, a great response by Eagle. But what also stood out to me is the fact that our clients wanted those broader reforms as part of their settlement package. You could see other folks in that same situation accepting a settlement that says my property's fine, but I don't have to care about everyone else's. But it sounds like the Mallorys really wanted to make sure that the town of Eagle changed what they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. From the very beginning, Erica and Zach are classic IJ clients, and that the reason that they were involved in the case, the reason they wanted to bring the case is for the broader principle, right? To ensure that Eagle knows like the First Amendment matters and that people have a right to speak out about their government. And
What? These are lawyers, people. Institute for Justice. Google them. Give them $5 a month. They're not paying me to do this. Right? No, they're not paying me to do this. I want them to help me and to help you and to help us.
And so they were always from the start of the case interested in, in advocating for that right and making a broader impact than just their own case. And I think Erica told a great story to us when we were, talking about her interest in the case. And she's an operating room nurse. And she said, one of the things that I have to do is, even though I'm the nurse, I'm not the surgeon, is if I see the surgeon doing something in the operating room that I haven't seen before that I think is off, I have to say, wait, everybody stop. Can you explain what you're doing? And like, I am looking out for the patient here, where I have to be able to advocate even in situations where it's uncomfortable.
How dare you? Look at my lab coat.
disrespectful for me to do so. And I think that's the mentality that led her to be so vocal at town board meetings as well, and to say, hey, why are you doing this? The town deserves to know. And having that attitude of just, I'm here for the principal and I'm not afraid to speak up. It definitely was a credit to her and Zach as I did clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of courage.
All right, we get this. There's a lot more video to go. Go to Institute for Justice. Watch everything on their channel. Everything's compelling on Institute for Justice channel. Again, they are not paying me. They don't even know me. Maybe they've heard of me. I'd be flattered. But that's the deal. Institute for Justice. Google, sign up, give them $5 a month if you can. As broke as I am, I'm even going to give them $5 a month. All right. You got me playing head games. Anyway, JC Playford tomorrow at noon. Live. JC Playford, you know who he is? After you're done Googling yourself, and you ever Google yourself? I have. Then Google Institute for Justice. Then Google JC Playford, News Now San Diego. We're talking OG. OG. When I say OG, I mean the OG is the aged OG. He's like a fine auditor cheese that has matured and developed and has pioneered and blazed the trail through auditor history with a camcorder and some jean shorts. This isn't a joke, and I don't care if you're laughing right now. That's on you. You're going to hell. So as I was saying, JC Playford, JC Playford tomorrow at noon, live. I've always had his number. There's a bunch of people I want to interview. JC Playford tomorrow. There's another guy who worked for the Department of Justice who I've been meaning to interview for like a year. Southeastern PA Community Watch. And many more people. But, let me put on my Long Island audit. Let's go full screen here. Oh, no, you get out of here. Let me put on my Long Island audit filter. Watch my face. All right, see my face? Watch my face. I am going to turn into Long Island audit, or maybe Long Island audit's fraternal twin. Ready? Here we go. Yay, nay? Huh? 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 Alrighty. Anyway. The suspense. What suspense, bro? So, JC Playford, noon, tomorrow. What else? Auditor Fest. Auditor Awards. Auditor Cook-Off. Auditor Festival. Ooh, Auditor Festival. Probably going to happen. Probably going to be $100 a ticket. Probably going to be limited to 300 people. Everyone's going to be vetted. Auditors and ticket holders alike. Did I mention JC Playford? Did I mention Institute for Justice? Did I mention me? 99 cents a month. Give it to me. I'm worth it. You get to see not that much more stuff, but it's $1 a month, and you get to see my body cams, videos that YouTube won't let me make public, so to speak. Why do I keep looking up? Let Let me talk to you through my neck. So as I was saying, that's what happens when you don't have good camera people. Nothing like some uncomfortable silence, huh? Yeah, you can't handle this. Stare down. I always feel like somebody's texting me, and I get no privacy. Okay, guys. The government is starting to crack down on auditors. They're trying to. They've been trying to. They've been trying to pass laws, and now DeSantis became treasonous and passed the anti-free speech, anti-assembly, anti-First Amendment law taking effect January, 25 feet, plus harassment. So you have to be 25 feet away, and it seems like it's time to make some big signs. Become a member, you get to see videos before everyone else does. That's true too. And you get to see videos that no one else gets to see. Too hot. Yo, too hot. Too hot. Stop that shady, slicker, rapadoodle, can't spell crap without rap. BS. Nonsensical northeastern salsa BS. New York City, down in the dump, statue of crapidity. Nonsense. Anyway, John and his multiple personalities are not exiting the building. We got things to do like weed whack. DeSantis going to Israel to sign the third anti-First Amendment law. Bro, I know this is just as hard as suing the government, but we need to run for office, man. All right, man, that's enough. Everyone, have a good day and be good people, and may your spittoon be on target. Later.